In the quiet suburbs of a gated community, where manicured lawns hid simmering tensions, a single encounter threatened to unravel the fragile veil of civility. Marcus, a tall, composed black man in his mid-40s, stood at the entrance gate. One crisp autumn evening, his keys jingling softly as he prepared to head home after a long day at work. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the asphalt, when a white SUV screeched to a halt behind him. Out stepped a woman in her 50s, her face flushed with indignation, sunglasses perched atop her perfectly coiffed blonde hair. She was the epitome of suburban entitlement, the kind who patrolled the neighborhood like a self-appointed guardian. Without a word of greeting, she demanded access, her voice sharp and accusatory, as if his mere presence was an obstruction. Marcus, ever polite but firm, explained that the gate required a resident code or key fob, something she clearly lacked. Her eyes narrowed, scanning him from head to toe, her mind racing through assumptions fueled by years of unchecked bias. Why was he here? Didn't he look out of place? In her world, people like him were suspects, not neighbors. As he turned away to enter his own code, she whipped out her phone, fingers trembling with righteous fury. The call to 911 was placed in seconds, her breath quickening as she painted a picture of threat and intrusion. Little did she know, the threads of fate were already weaving a tapestry of irony. Marcus's life was intertwined with the very system she sought to weaponize against him. As the operator's voice crackled through the line, the woman's confidence swelled, unaware that the calm, professional tone on the other end belonged to someone who knew Marcus intimately, someone who would turn the tables in ways she could never anticipate. The air thickened with unspoken injustice, a microcosm of broader societal ills where a simple refusal could escalate into a life-altering ordeal. What started as a minor standoff was barreling toward a revelation that would expose the raw underbelly of Prejudice, leaving viewers to ponder. How many times had this played out unseen, and what happens when the oppressed hold the power? The community of Willow Creek Estates was a picture of suburban perfection on the surface. Rows of identical, two-story homes with white picket fences, community pools sparkling under the sun, and an HOA board that ruled with an iron fist over everything from lawn heights to holiday decorations. It was the kind of place where diversity was touted in brochures but rarely embraced in daily life. Marcus Thompson had moved there 5 years ago with his wife, Elena, seeking a fresh start after years in the bustling city. As a software engineer, Marcus appreciated the quiet, but he was no stranger to the subtle glances and whispered comments that followed him on evening walks. His skin color, a rich mahogany, seemed to unsettle some residents who clung to outdated notions of who belonged. Elena, a dedicated 911 dispatcher with over a decade of experience, worked the evening shifts at the county call center. Her voice was a beacon of calm in crises, guiding callers through heart attacks, car accidents, and domestic disputes. She and Marcus had met in college, their bond forged in shared dreams and mutual respect. They chose Willow Creek for its proximity to her job and the promise of safety for their 2 young children. But safety, Marcus often reflected, was relative. He had grown up in a neighborhood where police presence meant trouble, not protection, and even now, in this upscale enclave, he felt the weight of being watched. That fateful evening, Marcus was returning from picking up groceries when the incident unfolded. The woman, later identified as Linda Hargrove, was a longtime resident and vocal HOA member known for her complaints about everything from noisy children to unauthorized vehicles. Linda had been visiting a friend in the adjacent ungated area and decided to cut through Willow Creek to avoid traffic. Spotting Marcus at the gate, fiddling with his keys, actually, he was just double-checking his bag, her instincts kicked in. To her, he didn't fit the profile of a resident. His casual attire, a hoodie and jeans, screamed intruder in her biased lens. She honked impatiently, then exited her vehicle, approaching with a mix of authority and fear. As Marcus calmly inputted the gate code, Ignoring her escalating demands, Linda's mind spiraled. She recalled news stories of burglaries, convincing herself this was one in progress. Her call to 911 was not her first. She had a history of reporting suspicious activities, often involving people of color delivering packages or jogging. The operator, Elena, though Linda couldn't know, picked up immediately, her trained ear detecting the hysteria in the caller's voice. Marcus, sensing the escalation, felt a familiar knot in his stomach, the kind that came from years of navigating a world that viewed him as a threat. Curiosity built as the scene unfolded. Would this be another statistic in racial profiling, or something more? The community's facade of harmony cracked, revealing the undercurrents of discrimination that simmered just below. Tension mounted as Linda's voice grew louder on the phone, her descriptions laced with exaggeration. She painted Marcus as aggressive, claiming he was tampering with the gate and refusing to identify himself. In reality, he stood there stoically, his back turned, unwilling to engage in what he recognized as a power play rooted in prejudice. The gate swung open with a mechanical whir, and Marcus stepped through, but Linda followed closely, her free hand gesturing wildly as if to summon invisible allies. The evening air carried the scent of freshly cut grass, a stark contrast to the brewing storm. At the dispatch center, Elena listened intently, her fingers flying across the keyboard to log the details. The address was familiar, their own community gate. As Linda ranted about the suspicious black man blocking her way, Elena's heart skipped a beat. The description matched Marcus perfectly. Tall, dark-skinned, wearing a gray hoodie. She glanced at the clock. He should be home by now. A chill ran down her spine as she connected the dots. This wasn't just any call. It was targeting her husband. Years of handling similar reports flooded her mind. False alarms weaponized against minorities, leading to unnecessary escalations and sometimes tragedy. Elena maintained her composure, probing for more details while subtly delaying the response to buy time. Meanwhile, Marcus walked toward his home, a few blocks away, his mind racing. He had experienced this before, being questioned in stores, followed in parking lots, but in his own neighborhood? The injustice burned deep, a reminder that no amount of success could shield him from systemic bias. Linda, undeterred, trailed him in her SUV at a crawl, phone still pressed to her ear, narrating his every move like a live commentary. Neighbors peeked from windows, drawn by the commotion, their curiosity mixing with unspoken judgments. 1. Elderly couple whispered about troublemakers, reinforcing the community's implicit divides. Elena's shift supervisor noticed her paling face and asked if she was okay. She nodded, but inside, anger simmered. This call exemplified the racial injustices she heard daily: over-policing of black communities, the assumption of guilt based on appearance. She decided to handle it personally, radioing a nearby patrol car but instructing them to approach cautiously. As minutes ticked by, Linda's impatience grew. She expected swift action, not questions that exposed holes in her story. Marcus reached his driveway, unlocking the door to let their dog out, a moment of normalcy amid chaos. But the emotional stakes heightened. What if officers arrived with guns drawn? The fear was palpable, a reflection of broader societal wounds where a simple misunderstanding could turn deadly. The injustice deepened as Linda doubled down, insisting on immediate arrest. Elena, piecing together the truth, felt a surge of protectiveness. This wasn't just about one incident. It symbolized the exhaustion of living under constant scrutiny, the toll on families like theirs. Tension peaked as sirens wailed in the distance, the community holding its breath for the inevitable confrontation. The sirens grew louder, piercing the suburban tranquility like a warning cry. Marcus paused in his doorway, his children peering out curiously, unaware of the storm brewing. Linda parked her SUV haphazardly on the curb, triumphant as two police officers emerged from their cruiser, hands resting casually on their belts. The scene was charged with potential volatility, the kind that had ended badly in too many headlines. Elena, still on the line with Linda, had relayed critical details to the officers. This was no intruder, but a resident, her husband, and the call reeked of bias. As the officers approached, Linda rushed forward, pointing accusatorily at Marcus. Her face was a mask of self-righteousness, convinced her vigilance had thwarted a crime. The lead officer, a seasoned veteran named Ramirez, addressed her first, asking for clarification. Marcus stood firm, his posture unyielding yet non-threatening, a practiced stance from years of such encounters. The emotional intensity was electric. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool evening, his mind flashing to his family's safety. Elena, monitoring from the dispatch center, held her breath. She had patched into the officer's radio, her voice guiding them with insider knowledge. "Suspect is my spouse," she had whispered earlier, her tone laced with urgency. Now, as the confrontation unfolded, Ramirez turned to Marcus, recognizing him from community events. "Mr. Thompson?" he asked, diffusing the air slightly. Linda's eyes widened in confusion. How did they know him? The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Ramirez explained calmly that the dispatcher handling the call was Marcus's wife, confirming no crime had occurred. Linda's phone, still connected, broadcast Elena's voice, a composed but firm rebuke of the unfounded accusations. The woman's face drained of color, her entitlement crumbling under the weight of exposure. This was the peak of drama, the moment where prejudice met accountability. Marcus felt a rush of vindication mixed with sorrow. This wasn't triumph, but a stark highlight of the racial divides that persisted. The officers documented the incident, warning Linda about the consequences of false reports, especially those motivated by bias. She stammered excuses, claiming misunderstanding, but the truth hung heavy. Her actions stemmed from deep-seated racism, viewing a black man as inherently suspicious. Neighbors watched from afar, some ashamed, others awakened to their own complicity. Elena, ending the call, felt a surge of empowerment. Her role had flipped the script, turning a weapon against her family into a shield. In that intense exchange, the stakes crystallized. The potential for harm, the emotional scars left by such injustices. Marcus locked eyes with Linda, his gaze steady, conveying volumes without a word. This was bigger than them, a symptom of a society still grappling with equality. The officers departed, leaving Linda humiliated in her vehicle, the community forever altered by the raw display of truth. As the cruiser lights faded into the night, Marcus embraced his children inside, the door closing on the ordeal but not on its echoes. Elena arrived home soon after. Her shift ended early, and they shared a quiet moment reflecting on the evening's events. The incident, though resolved without physical harm, left invisible wounds, the constant vigilance required to navigate a world rigged against them. Linda slunk away. Her HOA authority diminished as word spread through neighborhood chats, prompting discussions on bias training and inclusivity. In the days that followed, Marcus and Elena channeled the experience into advocacy, sharing their story anonymously online to raise awareness about weaponized 911 calls. The community saw subtle changes: fewer frivolous complaints, more outreach events fostering understanding. Yet, the broader impact lingered, the reminder that racial injustice wasn't confined to headlines but infiltrated everyday spaces like gated suburbs. This tale, inspired by true events, underscores the pervasive nature of prejudice and the power of unexpected alliances in dismantling it. It highlights how systems meant for protection can be misused, but also reclaimed by those within. In a world where assumptions can destroy lives, stories like this serve as catalysts for change, urging empathy over suspicion. What if the next call you make or witness could bridge divides instead of widening them? Reflect on that and let it inspire action toward a more just society.